can you talk to me about Matt Parrish really quickly before we jump back to you
Sure.
and your observations of him? Because you mentioned that you were really kind of chasing him for 7, 8 years earlier, and you're arriving at a point now as a junior where you're really close. Tell me about Matt.
Yeah. So Matt and I were friends before we were really competitors. Meaning we were on the same team at the Birmingham YMCA with BBD, Birmingham Blue Dolphins. So I got to know him there. I got to know his younger brother, Mark. He and I became friends. And it wasn't until I was probably about 11 or 12 that I started to, I guess, be closer in the same number of heats, number of events that he was swimming, and he really kind of became a competitor. He was always a great guy. He's one of those people that you could race against him, and if it was a competitive race and either you won or he won, he'd be one of the first guys to hop out and shake your hand and say, "Great race, man! That was awesome." So from an early age, I definitely saw the kind of sportsman that he was, and I think that definitely had an impact on me about the way someone of that caliber should conduct themselves, because I saw how much respect he had, not only from his fellow swimmers, but from, adults, coaches. And that definitely kind of helped show me, that if I were to ever be at that level, how I should conduct myself, so that I would, always be respectful of other people and always be bringing other people up, because he did. He was very much a team player. He brought up everyone around him. If people were having a hard time, he'd be the first guy right there trying to help them out. So Matt Parrish definitely seemed, like a larger than life kind of individual in my life when I was growing up. You just want to be like him in certain aspects. I didn't know every aspect about him, but from what I saw from the swimming, from being an athlete, he was definitely something to always strive for, to be not only as fast in the pool, but to be the kind of guy he was outside of the pool. When we got older and we're in high school, I remember, I think his name was Matt Brown. I think he was like the existing 100 backstroke champion, or he was supposed to win it. It was his senior year, and it was Matt's freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
And I think he ended up beating him, and I remember just like my jaw dropping. Like,
Latham and Braun.
I can't believe Matt Parrish just won. What's that?
It was John Latham and Matt Braun. He was the third seed in that race, and nobody thought he was going to win it.
Yep. Matt Braun, that's right. I said Brown. Yeah, I was incorrect. Matt Braun. So I got to know Matt Braun. I knew Matt Braun, and I knew what kind of swimmer he was. He was a really tall, big guy. And I was still, even to this day, I have no idea how Matt Parrish beat him his freshman year. Sheer will and determination coupled with phenomenal athleticism, who knows? But yeah, Matt Parrish, he and I, we raced against each other quite a bit, and it was never a bad competition. I've had bad competition with other people. Matt Parrish has never been one like that. It's always been real fierce, real competitive, but never personal. Never gets ugly. There's never any negativity that would arise from that guy. I'm sure that other people will probably know him better than I do, but that guy seems like he's been happy his whole life.
One of the things that strikes me, Bill, as you talk about him there, and I think it's the baton that gets passed from swimmers to swimmers. Matt was my very first interview in this series, and he very quickly told me that his idols were Eric Matuzak and Rafi. And Rafi is incredibly humble. You've got to pull it out of him to get him to talk about himself. And nobody ever described Eric as being an outward personality that was braggadocious, you know. And so Matt took his cue from Rafi. And Rafi had taken his cue from swimmers prior. And, and you see that in Matt, even though he was only a year old. There's a baton that's passed there, that there's guys that did it the right way and others who saw, Peter Vanderkay's babysitter was Rafi, so you look at Peter and it's like, wow. Well, I'm not so surprised that Peter's such a humble guy if he's growing up and Rafi's in the house watching him as a kid, because I see Rafi, it's very interesting to hear you kind of, talk about Matt doing it the right way, because that's very much the way he talked about the Andover guys before him and the impact that they had on him. I think that's really cool.